Hey guys, Chris from Provo Beast Audio Installation, and today we're doing a backup camera on this 2013 Subaru Impreza. In this install, we're going to show you how to run a backup camera to an existing aftermarket radio that has a backup camera input. Now, as we get started with this install, we're actually not going to show you how to remove the radio and get that all pulled apart, because we covered that in the first video of the series where we actually installed this radio previously. Check that video out. We'll have a card up above with that will show you step-by-steps on how to pull off this dash bezel and pull out the radio. Click on that. There will also be a link in the description. First place we're going to jump to is the camera that we're going to use. Let's jump to the bench, show you the camera, and then we'll come back here and show you with the radio out how to begin wiring it up. Now the backup camera we decided to go with is this E-wrapped license plate mountable camera. As we get this all pulled apart here, comes with the user manual, and if you have any question on how to wire or configure your backup camera, it does provide a little bit of direction here. We also have a very helpful video here on the channel. This kit comes with your video wire, which this is a long RCA cable which takes the video output from the camera in one end and runs it all the way up to the front of the car, and this will plug into the camera input on the back of the radio. Now it also has these red wires that run in parallel with all this video cable, and what these wires do, it just carries our trigger signal from the tail light positive and runs it up to the front as well. So this end will plug into the reverse light positive, and then this end will go into the trigger wire on the back of the radio. So when that light turns on, it puts 12 volts to this wire, which also runs through this whole parallel, and it puts it to the trigger wire on the back of the radio, and that's what automatically cycles over your radio to go into reverse mode when the car is backing up. So this kit also comes with a power harness. Also go ahead and get this guy pulled on out. This is a nice camera because it's on an aluminum bracket. This will actually mount behind the license plate. So if you have a license plate cover or a plate frame, it'll also still accommodate that. And then this camera, you can bend this bracket to customize the viewing angle as well. Alright, so that's the kit that we're going to use. Let's head over to the car and begin getting this installed. Okay, so with the radio out, what we've done here to connect our backup camera is on the back of our Pioneer radio, there's an RCA input that says camera in. That it's generally brown. It can differ depending on the make and model of the radio, but the video signal that'll be carried from the camera in the back all the way up to the radio is going to pass over this RCA. So we got to plug this into the camera input on the back of the radio. Now remember that red wire that runs in parallel with our video wire, that connects into the Pioneer's trigger wire, which is purple white, and we left it out when we installed this radio just so we had easy access to it. So got to hook up those two wires. Now to power our camera, we actually had an accessory wire that's just off our main harness here, and we're going to run our camera on switched accessory power, meaning rather than just in reverse, it's also going to receive power when the car is running. So we can utilize that camera in other times versus just in reverse. So we're going to provide switch power. So we're running an 18 gauge wire along with our video wire all the way along to the back as well to supply the camera power. So with these connections made, our power wire, accessory wire, and then also our purple white wire, and then we'll plug this in. That's all that we need to do. Let's go ahead and get the radio back in the dash, plugging this into the camera input on the back of the radio. We're going to plug our camera into the camera input underneath in the back of the radio. Alright, so we have our backup camera wire. We just fished it out underneath the dash. We're going to zip tie it up underneath so it's just out of the way, and then we've made it to this point. What we're going to do is continue to tuck it up underneath panels, working our way back to the hatch area. This is the wagon model, and so we're going to have to go up through the hatch. It's just not going to be in a trunk lid. So we'll show you how to do that from that point. Alright, so we got to start running this cable all the way to the back here. So usually if you get your fingers up underneath these panels, they just pop on off. What that's going to do is give us the access we need to start just tucking the cable up and out of the way. Now, it doesn't occupy a ton of space. So just kind of get it in the spot where it'll sit without interfering with the clips. Okay, so we've made it to this point with our wire here. Now, we do need to run this up here. And what we're going to do is run it through this grommet so we can get up in here. Now, at the same time, for our light down here below, we need to tap into the reverse light here, just because that's going to supply the power that we need to power the trigger wire. Now, we're not powering the camera off the light because, again, we're just running it to a switched power source just so the camera's on when the car is on. But to automatically trigger the radio to go into reverse mode when backing up, we have to snag signal from this. So we're going to tap into the positive wire of this light. So let's go ahead and get this out. So with that out of the way, now what we can do is poke a hole through this grommet so we can just run one line to tap into the power side for the trigger wire. I exposed the wire here, and we're just going to solder onto that. And remember, this other end goes to the trigger wire, to the purple white wire in the back of the radio. The issue we run into is this is not going to be here. This is actually going to be up in the hatch. So this wire is way, way, way too short. So what I've done is cut about 10 feet of 18 gauge wire, and we're just going to extend that little guy so we can run that back down to this and connect into the trigger wire. So I'm going to solder this on to this lead here, and then we're going to run this wire through this grommet and follow on the wiring harness up into the hatch. Okay, so now I have our video wire and our trigger wire, and I'm going to continue to run this up the seam up towards the grommet. We popped our little boot off, and what we're going to do is run our wire up through that and then out the other side, and this is probably the hardest part of this install. And then we'll go up into the hatch, and then we'll make our way towards the license plate. Alright, so what I've done here is I have taken the end of our wire and I hooked a zip tie to it. So I'm going to use the zip tie to fish through the boot. And so I taped the zip tie so it's nice and snug on there. And we're going to start fishing this wire through this rubber grommet. Here we go. So now we need to go from this point through the, since we've gone through the grommet, up into the hatch. So we got to start taking apart these panels so we can have the space we need to get all the way through. Okay, so we're about ready to find a good access point through this hatch so we can mount our camera on the license plate bolts here. Now, if you notice this, generally that's where the factory camera would be if this was equipped with it. So what's cool, see on the inside, I already popped the grommet out, but there's a place that we can pass through to run all our cable through without having to drill. We'll just make a hole in that grommet, and that gives us the access we need. So we're gonna actually go ahead and pop that piece out, and there's gonna be 2 10mm on each side and then the clips in between. Okay, so we continue to run our wires up here, and we're about at this point. So we mounted our license plate, and we actually just put a little notch here. We didn't have to take this all the way off. We just put a little notch there so our wire didn't get pinched. And we ran it up through, and we need to still put the grommet in, but we were just testing, so it comes out there, plugs into the harness, and that harness needs ground, and we grounded it right there with the ring terminal. And then power for the camera. Remember, went to our switch power. This goes all the way up front along with the video camera wire, and goes to that red accessory wire behind the radio. And then our trigger wire that went from our reverse light, it came right here, and that's what we put in that parallel trigger wire. So that also goes all up front. So we made all our connections. So let's go ahead and do a test, make sure it works. We're gonna zip tie all this back up and start reassembling. Okay, everything's all zip tied and cleaned up, ready to go. At this point, let's put all the panels back on here and do a final test. All right, the camera's all mounted, and we put all the panels back on. Let's go ahead and give it a test. Here we go. Go ahead and put it reverse. Perfect. Now the hatch is open, we're looking at the garage door above us, but it's working great. We'll have to make some adjustments, but that's perfect. And then we'll hit home, and since we hooked the camera up to accessory power, we can actually hit the camera view while not in reverse, and we can still pull it up, which is awesome. Okay, that's about it for this install. If you have any questions on what we did here, post a comment below. Be sure to hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe for more great content, you guys, and we will certainly see you in the next video.